I'm Joe Pardavila. This is the ForbesBooks podcast, and legendary motivational speaker Napoleon Hill once said, "Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle." But he probably should have added marketing to that list. And my guest this week knows a thing or two about that. His name is Jeff Pedowitz, and he is the president and CEO of the Pedowitz Group, a consultancy that helps clients change the way they get revenue. Jeff and his team create and execute new business models for driving repeatable, predictable, and scalable revenue in a digital world. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Joe, thank you. It's so awesome to be here.
Well, the pleasure's mine, Jeff. And I guess I'm a Twitter guy, so I come across your Twitter feed, and it says Jeff Pedowitz, world's largest and most experienced revenue marketing agency. Break that down for me, because I'm a fellow Jersey guy, but not as bright as you. What does a revenue marketing agency do?
That's funny. I thought you were going to start off with world's largest and how I define that. But
No. Let's even go further up. That's a 15,000 foot view. Let's go 30,000 foot here.
Because with all the superhero comics and metaverses and everything, I think world is almost segmented. You know? It's just one world, not multiple universes. But a revenue marketing, really what it means is driving performance and revenue through marketing. And it's a bit of an oxymoron. It's meant to be, because for many, many years, marketing was viewed as an arts and crafts, make it pretty department. And it's really only been in the last 15 years or so that they've been held accountable for driving revenue, building leads, partnering with sales. And so we do a lot of work with transforming the marketing function from being a traditional cost center into being a revenue center.
Interesting, because I'm old enough to remember the good old days of PR and marketing where there really was no tangible ROI. And you probably remember this too. It's like if you were doing a marketing, it's like, hey, we got these clicks, or your company was featured in this story. But there's no way to quantify it. But now, thanks to the internet, it's much easier. Is that where you saw the idea of, listen, now that we have access to these analytics, that we can use it as opposed to just being like throwing stuff against the wall and see if it works?
Yeah, well, that goes back to, what was it, Charles Woolworth, who famously said, "I know half of my marketing is working. I just don't know which half."
True.
The reality is you really can, with today's tools and channels and things being so much more digitally oriented. There are tracking codes and all different kinds of vehicles. So marketing can get a much better understanding of how it's driving revenue. That being said, what happens, especially in a B2B selling environment, when you have sales organizations and multiple relationships and buying centers, it's a little bit more complex and nuanced than that. So it's not so much about sourcing or crediting marketing specifically with a deal or an opportunity, because it's really almost impossible to manage at that level of detail. It's really more examining the types of activities and things that marketing invests in to partner with sales to drive revenue, and to stop spending money on the things that aren't working and spend more money on the things that are.
And you are not a fan of funnels. You famously wrote the book, F the Funnel. First, what did funnels ever do to you, Jeff? I mean, did they like steal a spouse of yours at one point? What don't you like about funnels?
Well, as much as the original title was called "Fall in Love with the Funnel," and just everything got dropped after that first F. I don't think people ever really wanted to be sold to, per se. It's just up until recently, as customers, we didn't have much of a choice. And the company and the seller was very much in control with the information we received, how we received it, when we received it. But if we had our choice, druthers as customers, we want the freedom to choose. As the world has moved increasingly more towards a digital landscape, and customers have instantaneous choices, hundreds if not thousands of them at their fingertips, the customer experience matters. Choice matters. Control of the customer matters. And customers, above all, still want a meaningful relationship. They don't want to be treated as a transaction. The problem with funnels is they were designed just for the company. They were designed really as a process management device, right? If I get a certain number of raw material, let's say suspects, I refine them, I process them, I move them down my assembly line. I'm going to get a certain number of finished product at the end. Customers, rinse and repeat. But that completely ignores the feelings, the sentiments, the attitudes of the customer in between. And really, in a lot of ways, the funnel is very, very inefficient. So we've been advocating for a model that looks at the entire customer relationship, not just getting them to the initial sale, but what you do to build customer lifetime value.
Hmm. And so talk to me about data, because I know you're a big data guy. Obviously, you built a company on data, and you talk about how data plays a critical role everywhere. Talk to me about the differences between data and good data. How do you measure what is good data?
I was starting to think about the good place, you know. And so it's I think, you know, good data is data that you can actually use to make meaningful segmentations and reach your customer. It's really interesting. And there's so many different ways to get data now. It comes in from so many different sources. And everyone's always obsessed about getting more data, but they very seldom want to work with how good the data is. And so when you have good data, it allows you to make data-driven decisions. It allows you to determine next best action. And then AI running on top of that can actually help executives make better decisions about where to invest and where to target the customers. Bad data could be completely missing data. It could be incomplete data, inaccurate data, which causes you to put people into the wrong segment, to deliver messages that are off topic or not personalized or not relevant, to send things at the wrong time to the wrong person, to make investment decisions that are poor because the data is poor. So really the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, applies here. So if you're going to really not care, you're going to go out and buy a bunch of lists, then you're going to spam a bunch of people, and all you're really thinking about is volume. That is really a horrible way to scale and build your brand.
The key word there is volume, because I feel like the old adage of, you know, analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis, whatever way that line works. How were you able to, I apologize for using this word, but funnel the good data when you have this sea of data and a lot of it is bad data?
Well, I mean, I think it still gets back to understanding who your ideal customer profile is, or profiles, you know, plural, depending upon who you're selling, what you're selling to. And then going back and examining the attributes you need that fit within that ICP. Now, a lot of times when we work with clients, they can very easily rattle off who their ICP is. And then when we go in and we look at their CRM and their marketing platforms, we often find several things. First of all, we find a lot of data in there that has nothing to do with what they think their ICP is. And oftentimes there's some pretty good business there. So, you know, finding opportunities where you weren't even spending money or attention and you're winning business, that's good, right? Because that means if you redirect your efforts, you could actually get more business. At the same time, it could be bad because all this time you thought that you had an ICP and you were spending time and effort, and as it turns out, it's not. So you're not getting the best return.
And you battle that with the loop model, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, the loop in and of itself doesn't fix your data. You still have to work at it. It's just a different model, right? So the loop compared to the funnel is just thinking about an eternal, ever-growing relationship with your customer. It's really not a lot different than our personal relationships, our friends, our spouse, significant other, our kids. You got to work at a relationship, right? No relationship stays perfect all the time for years and years and years. I mean, people change, dynamics change, conditions change. So you have to grow both individually and together to build the health of that relationship. So if you don't do that with your customer, it's doesn't matter. So the loop just takes a long view to the customer relationship as opposed to the funnel, which is more short-sighted, but you still have to invest in data. And if anything, you're thinking about data even more holistically, because now you're looking at onboarding data, adoption data, value delivery data, loyalty data, advocacy data, not just thinking about how many leads do I need to get to a closed sale.
And if you go to the Pedowitz website, pedowitzgroup.com, big banner says driving greater marketing revenue is what we do. And then below it is the line that caught me. $1 trillion and counting. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. Yeah, we've gone back because we work with a lot of enterprise clients. Many of them are doing well over $1 billion a year in revenue. And we've been doing this for 14 years.
Wow.
And you know, I could rattle off clients where we've generated billions and billions of dollars just for that one client alone.
Wow.
So yeah, in totality, working with almost 2,000 clients over 14 years, we've had a pretty big impact.
I love, you know, happy endings and happy stories, especially in this world of 2021. But is there one you can share as to, you know, how you were able to grow whether you can name drop or not, but like you got this $1 billion growth, thanks to the work you were doing?
I have to err on the side of caution.
Okay.
Because a lot of these clients are sensitive about their revenue growth. But
how about can you make it as like, say there's this company that does this, and keep it as generic as possible, just so we get some sort of context.
So let's just say we worked with a company that started off offering residential cable services.
Okay.
And ended up creating business for B2B businesses, offering bundled high-speed internet, voice over IP, digital technologies. And so we grew that firm from 40 million to 4 billion.
I'm sorry, hold on a second, Jeff. My math isn't that great. Again, Jersey guy here. Did you say 40 billion?
40 million.
40 million.
And we work with them to grow them up to 4 billion.
4 billion. All right, so here's a super simple question to a complex answer. How?
Well, when we started working with them, they were heavily into print mail. And so then they were doing a lot of what's like carpeting, basically.
Okay, like snail mail, like those direct
typical snail mail, catalogs, bundle promotions. So we moved them, and they were spending over $20 million a year just on print mail.
Wow! In
order to reach prospects. So we actually cut that budget by 90%. We redirected it back into digital activities, and we used a lot of social, email marketing, and mobile marketing, and very targeted to be able to reach their business audience. And we also worked on the backside. We implemented speed to lead mechanisms that previously took them over a week to get a lead to a salesperson. And we were able to route leads to a salesperson by zip code in under 60 seconds by the time that we got done. So the combination of doing those things, working on the processes, having better engagement, better targeting, was able to bring in a much better funnel, much more targeted, got the right leads to the right salespeople in real time, and they were able to drive that conversion.
That is unbelievable. I guess you try. I'm sure you probably, under promise and over deliver. But when they got those results, were they like, Jeff, how did you do this? Were they shocked?
No, I wouldn't say they were shocked. But they did reward us by working for over 7 years. So I'd say that's probably where the proof is. And it didn't happen all overnight, of course. We didn't we didn't work with them and went from 40 million to 4 billion in a single year, which would be amazing in and of itself. But it did happen over the course of about 5 years.
Wow, that's still pretty cool. I think that's a pretty good ROI over 5 years. So take us back to the beginning. 16 years, you say. How did you get into this world?
Well, I actually discovered kind of marketing automation when I was working at a company called SalesNet. This was back in the early 2000s. And so I was working with their channel resellers to kind of recruit resellers and implementers for the platform. And at the time, we discovered Eloqua, which was maybe then just a few years old as a company. And Eloqua was one of the first enterprise class marketing automation platforms. I always loved technology. I always loved sales. I always loved marketing. It was probably as close to a calling that I could ever get, I guess, and just really loved working with the platform. Ended up meeting the CEO of Eloqua, and he recruited me to go work there. And got a chance to work with some really, really talented, amazing people at Eloqua. And with our team, we created a lot of the early best practices like lead scoring. That wasn't even a concept back then. And so we came up with the first models for building out scoring, digital body language, and doing a number of different things. And I trained a lot of the early partners and helped them get their businesses started. And I saw them doing really great and building great businesses with the ideas that our team was coming up with. And I said, hey, I can do this. If these guys are out there doing it. So that's really how it gave me the courage to kind of go out and hang up my own shield. And in the beginning, honestly, I was just hoping to have a lifestyle business, maybe work with 4 or 5 people, play golf 2 weeks a month, and then have a nice gig. That lasted for about a month because the phone started ringing and it hasn't stopped now for over 15 years.
Wow. And I'd love to go back to that, 15, 16 years when you were telling folks, say, when people used to have parties and stuff, hey, yeah, I'm starting up this revenue marketing agency. This is way ahead of its time. Did it take a while to explain people like me how you got into this and what the company does? I mean, I'm sure it took a lot of explaining back then.
Well, yeah, probably more so back then than today.
Yeah.
When the concept was much more new. But I can't take credit for the term revenue marketing. That's my business partner and good friend, Dr. Debbie Gagish. She actually coined the term in 2010. But she was always ahead of her time, still is. She was able to really come up with a term that described what we were doing. I think prior to that, we were just kind of calling ourselves a demand generation agency. But we were able to really build a good, strong brand around revenue marketing, and it's still, of course, very closely affiliated with us today.
What does the future look like? Because you were obviously ahead of the game. Is it just the AI improve? Like, what other facets can help grow the business? Not that you need any more growth. Geez, Jeff, you're doing pretty good. But like, what can you do in the future to scale up this kind of agency?
Well, it's really, the world's moved beyond just marketing automation and CRM. It's really about this entire world of digital and the reshaping of the customer experience across the enterprise. It's about building one integrated revenue team. So it's not just marketing anymore, marketing working with sales. It's marketing, sales, customer success, all part of one organization, working collaboratively, cohesively together, streamlining technology, improving the customer experience across the digital landscape. And digital is the great disruptor. So the opportunity to blaze new trails, to build new business models, to build subscription models, to build self-service portals, to use mobile, IoT. The world's constantly changing and evolving. So we view our role as experts in sales, marketing, technology, to be able to help our customers figure out what's next. And so the scale factor is there just because the opportunity is there. There's this explosion of channels, of technology, of data, of people, of talent, of skill. And no one company can do it all internally. And so they turn to experts like us to be able to help them figure it out. So to me, the opportunity is bigger than it's ever been. And so we're just enjoying riding the wave.
And you obviously seem genuinely surprised that this took off the way it did. You said you thought you could be, golfing and hanging out, have a good, living your best life, but it's turned out to be a little busier than that. Why do you think you succeeded so incredibly well? Why this exponential growth and blowing up companies and bringing in trillions of dollars of revenue? What was it about Jeff Pedowitz?
I don't think it's me at all. I think it's my people. I have a great team. And they do amazing things every day. I've been lucky enough to attract some really awesome people. They're great innovators, they're great creators, and they're the ones that are on the front lines every day delivering the work to our customers. And so really I have them to thank.
And the business phrase of never be the smartest person in the room has been uttered countless times. The greatest minds in tech and in business have uttered that phrase. But I think it sort of demeans what that means for leaders, because I feel like even though you may not be the smartest person in the room, you've got to attract the smartest people to that room. How did you attract those smart people to work with you?
Well, look, I'm really passionate about what I do. I'm very good at what I do. I've always taken great pride in being a professional and delighting my customers. And I've just tried to build my reputation by doing good work, by doing what I say I'm going to do, shaking someone's hand, and then doing what I promised I would do. And just try to build a good company along the way that reflect my values, the values that my parents raised me and my brother and sister with. And along with my wife, who's also my business partner, we've really just tried to build a company in our image of what we think is right. And, maybe not everybody always agrees with it all the time, but we're very happy with the culture that we've built. And we've had people that have been with us for a really, really long time. Which we're really, really blessed. So well over 50% of our company has been with us for 5 years or more.
Wow. And this sort of leads into something you wrote earlier this fall, and that's about the idea that small gestures can have a big impact on building and nurturing client relationships. Talk to me about some of those gestures.
Look, remembering someone's birthday or anniversary, or that their kid is playing in the Little League championship. Sending them a piece of chocolate or taking them out for coffee. It's the little things in life. And again, so the little things with customers. And, what I tell my team all the time is of course I want us to do good work. But when all is said and done, what people really remember is the relationships. 5 years out, 10 years out, you don't think about the vendors you work with and remember, man, they built a really good report for me. And that integration was just rock solid. No, I mean, they're going to remember that you were there for them, that when the chips were down, you came through, you worked together. One thing my boss told me a long time ago, back when I still had a boss, I guess, but it's not how well you get along when things are going well. It's how well you work together when they're not. And I think that is the hallmark of any good relationship, which is, well, sure, it's easy. I mean, if everything's working and the money's flowing in and everyone's good, no one's really challenged. So you don't really know how good your relationship is when things are too good. But when you're challenged and you're under pressure, do you start breaking down? Do you point fingers? Do you blame the other person? Do you run away? Or do you stand, you roll up your sleeves, you get to work and you fight? And I mean, I think those are the things that customers remember.
The way you were talking there remind me of like folks in the hospitality industry. And I tell this to people all the time. I lived in New York most of my life, and some of the best restaurants in the world are in New York City. But the one thing I tell people is you never remember what the food tastes like. You only remember the experience. I remember going to Del Posto, and they have like waiters, white gloves, and using choreography to put the plates down. And it was like an 8-course meal, but I honestly couldn't tell you one thing I ate, but I can just remember the experience of it. And that's sort of like what you do. It's really about, obviously the food's got to be good or I wouldn't remember that experience, but it all goes hand in hand in just creating that experience. When did you discover that was going to be important for your company to grow, like to build this experience? Not that it was just going to work for people, but that they would enjoy the experience.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I thought about it in those terms. I just thought about it because that's the right thing to do, period. It never occurred to me to not treat my customers well. Look, 3 months in after my wife and I started the business, this is back in 2007, we went back to New Jersey to visit my family for Thanksgiving and the holidays. And I had just finished an integration for one of our first large clients. And I was really, really proud of it. And so we're out in the mall, and I remember we were at a Radio Shack, and I get a call from my customer, and he tells me that the entire database was corrupted, that something I built with the integration was broken. And I remember sitting down right in the middle of Radio Shack on the floor, just turning ashen white, and my wife's coming over to look at me like, what's wrong? And, I'm sitting there like, okay, the business is going to be over before we started, Because I got 3 months in and I just totally screwed up my customer's database. Oh my God, what am I going to do? So after about a minute of being dazed, I got myself back up to my feet, called the customer back, said, okay, as soon as I get back, I'm going to do nothing but work, and I'm going to fix this myself, and I'm not going to charge you for it. I'm going to make this right. It took me a month. Because I really screwed it up that bad. And a lot of the tools that we have today weren't available then. So I had to manually go through and rebuild thousands of records. When all is said and done, and the customer said to me, you know what? You could have blamed it on someone else. You could have not taken responsibility. The fact that you did this, you took responsibility for it, and you made it right, as painful as it was. You're the type of partner I want to work with. And they rewarded us with a very high 6-figure contract.
Wow.
And so, I just did it because it was the right thing to do, not because I expected something out of it. And even if he wouldn't have given us a new contract, I still would have done it anyway. And that's why even to this day, we have a performance guarantee. So, and I have yet to see any of our competitors do this, but I guarantee everything that our team does. And if our customer isn't happy with the work that we do, we'll do it again at no charge. And if they're still not happy with it, they won't pay for it. That's how strongly I believe in our team.
It's so funny. Do you have an MBA?
I did not, but I feel like I've earned a PhD through business.
I was going to say, because a lot of this stuff is they don't teach in business school. Like, this is stuff either you don't, like I joke to a lot of people, like I don't have a lot of tangible skills. Most of my gifts are intangible. So I feel like that is such a big part of your success, Jeff. The fact that you have all these intangible skills that you could never have learned in 1,000 years or 1,000 hours in an MBA program, but it was just either genetics, nature, nurture, whatever the heck you want to say it is. But I mean, I'm sure you probably feel the same way that, all of these skills that you can't really learn, they're not learned skills. It's what we call now soft skills. It's the big thing now, but you had those soft skills. Did you know you did when you started this company that you would have all these soft skills that would help you weather through the bad times of being in a fetal position at a Radio Shack in a mall in New Jersey?
Well, I don't want to paint myself out to be a model of, I mean, because I made a lot of mistakes along the way too. I said things I shouldn't have said. I have a tendency to be pretty direct, and my heart's on my sleeve. So there's really no hidden agenda with me. But, sometimes I say things because I believe they're the truth, and people don't always like it. And over the years, I've probably stepped in it a few times. With the benefit of hindsight, I probably should have made a different choice. But it's just something that I work at. I mean, I think we're all pieces of clay, right? We all have to try and build a better version of ourselves if you want to. And for me, I'm just always committed to just trying being the best version of myself that I can be. I try and take in more feedback. I've gotten a lot better at listening to feedback from my team over the last few years, and recognizing that the job's never done. And as new people come into the workforce, they have a different set of expectations. They want to be led differently. And I view myself, my job is as a servant leader, right? I mean, I don't view as everyone working for me, even though my name's on the door. I view as I'm here to serve them. So in order to do that, I have to learn more about what they want, what they need, when they need it, and deliver it to them the best way I can.
How did you learn to become a better leader? Was it just School of Hard Knocks? Was there mentorship? Who showed you the way, or how did you find the way to become a successful leader?
Honestly, I think it's been a little bit of everything. It's definitely been a school of hard knocks. I've gotten involved a lot more in CEO networking groups now over the last couple of years, and I've started to be a mentor to others. I wish I had more of that when I started, because I probably would have made a lot less mistakes and saved myself a bunch of heartache. But I definitely learned from a school of hard knocks. I've had some really good mentors along the way. I've had some good friends that are competitors that we just shared notes with over the years. So during the day, we would beat each other up and try and beat each other's business, but we'd hit the bar at night and just share notes and stories, and we all made each other better, just by wanting to be the very best that we can. I've had some really great people that I've been blessed to be surrounded with. Again, my wife, Cherie, and who's also my business partner. I mean, together for 30 years. I mean, she, of course, had a profound impact on my life and who I am as a man and as a husband and as a leader. Debbie Gagish, my business partner, Gary Flicker, Scott Benedetti, Bruce Colbert, Evan White Knight. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've worked with over the years that have helped shape me, guide me, given me good input. And I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for my tough bosses. I'm grateful for the customers I didn't win. I'm grateful for the competitors that kicked my ass. Because it's all good in the end, because it makes me better. I'm not a sore loser, but I do hate to lose. I'm a good sport, and I'll never disparage anybody, but I hate losing. And so whenever I do lose, I look myself in the mirror and I just really self-analyze, because I want to be better next time. I just want to win.
And, we talked about the success stories, we talked about your struggles, but who's the perfect client for the Pedowitz Group? Like, if someone was listening now and is hearing about Jeff Pedowitz and your team for the first time, like, who would you work best with? Like, what kind of companies out there? Anybody? Big, large, small? Talk to me.
Well, I mean, look, we target a couple different kinds of companies. First, it's enterprise businesses, typically $1 billion and up, that have large distributed sales organizations, sell lots of goods and services, complex buying cycle, and they need a lot of help scaling and building an integrated customer experience across multiple channels and digital experiences. We also, though, work with VC or private equity, fast-growing companies that want to get to escape velocity and need to make the right types of investments and to scale up their infrastructure. Big or small, though, it's the client that gets it, that wants to be collaborative and get to work. It's a services business, and sometimes it doesn't always work out. But customers that from the beginning are just viewing to make us a scapegoat for something, that don't want to take accountability, or not willing to take their stakeholders and invest in the outcome, regardless of what the outcome is, those aren't good clients for us, because it's got to be a partnership. It's got to be symbiotic, right? So we're not here to just build a widget and leave. We're here to partner with you and completely transform how you're thinking about growing and scaling your business. If you're really ready to sign up for that, then we are absolutely the right partner to work with.
And finally, years ago on a podcast, you said, get the voice of the customer, understand what they really want, and give it to them. How does the Pedowitz Group do that for their clients?
Well, we spend a lot of time, first of all, with the data. So looking at what does the data actually say, not what do people think it says. And so that really informs a lot. We do surveys, focus groups. We do system observation, process observation, and that really helps us get a better understanding. And then wherever possible, we do bring in the voice of the customer, whether it's through a survey, whether it's through a focus group, whether it's through an interview, or whether it's through the data that we can see through observation. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things now about platforms like Bombora or Demandbase or Sixth Sense and these others. It just gives you this very powerful lens into customer behavior. What are they actually doing? How are they buying? What terms are they using? Where are they going? What sequences are they following? And that is the most informative information you can get. And then that allows us to make the right types of investments on behalf of the client.
His name is Jeff Pedowitz. He's the president and CEO of the Pedowitz Group. Jeff, it's good to see another Jersey guy do well out there, and can't wait to see what's coming up next for you guys. But thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Joe, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
I did too, Jeff. And that's it for this episode of the ForbesBooks podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I would love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.
This has been a production of ForbesBooks Radio. Find out more at ForbesBooksRadio.com.